Welcome back to vlog number 5. I'm Dustin. This is FreeAsAbove.xyz. So in my prior 4 vlogs, I've been explaining some foundational elements in which to understand spirituality and understand how to live rightly, that's a word, on this planet. I meshed a lot of ideas together, and I want to make sure that it's well understood by the listeners of this series, that they get this foundation first before I move on, because these are such big key components in which to build a worldview based on proper philosophy. Any worldview that you construct, that I construct, we have to make sure it's built on proper philosophy rather than ideology. I'm conflating the proper philosophy with principle. Principle means first things first. That is in opposition to ideologies. Ideologies are opinions and beliefs we have. If a group of people work off opinion and beliefs, the society falls apart. We have to align with nature, meaning there are certain laws and rules that govern this realm and this planet that are principles. And if we don't align with those principles, we start decaying as a society. This is the whole energy of this vlog. This is what I'm trying to push out so we can move away from ideology and move into principled thinking. We could liken it to this idea of, it's very simple, and I use this example a lot, I've talked about it a lot, but gravity, okay? The idea of gravity. If we as a society ignore gravity, we won't be around very much longer. A lot of us will be walking off cliffs, driving off cliffs, standing under things that are heavy that will crush us. We'll build buildings that won't work. We'll instantly start, being killed off because we're not following the principle of gravity or the principles of thermodynamics or the principles of chemical affinity or the principles of magnetism. These principles govern how the world works. And so it would be wise for our worldview to be in line with those principles. Then we thrive and move forward. As I keep moving on in this part is moving into principles of human behavior. Is there a law built into the universe that governs human behavior, just like gravity governs mass, or just like the laws of thermodynamics govern the principles of elements heated up, things to that nature, and govern chemicals, how they work and process. And again, we didn't build any of us as our species didn't build any of these principles. They were here before we got here. So the more we align with what we know about nature, we succeed. So the law that governs human behavior, there is really a law out there that we have to live by. Mark Passio's work put it into a really good, succinct way and did a lot of research in this area. It's called natural law. I use that specifically to talk about the law that governs human behavior. And what I mean by that is any action we take, we have the free will to take any action, but it always has a consequence that comes back. Any action we take has a consequence that comes back. And either it's a good consequence that helps us move forward or a bad consequence that devolves us and decays our species. When I talked about the 7 properties not to be stolen, that is included in the natural law idea, right? That is natural law. We all have 7 properties. And if we go in and steal those 7 properties from somebody, then that causes bad consequences for everyone, right? We start decaying as a species. So The 7 properties, and this is going back to this succinctness that I'm trying to put together in this video. I talked about the 7 properties, and they are: don't steal my life, don't steal my bodily integrity. So if stealing my life is murder, stealing my bodily integrity is assault, stealing my sexual choice is rape, stealing my peaceful domicile is trespass, stealing my possessions is just theft, stealing my free will decision is coercion, and stealing my fully informed decision is deception. As we take actions into the world, if we steal those 7 properties from each one of us, that begins obviously to cause suffering, which eventually decays us as a species. Having a worldview that's aligned with nature's laws, and in particular the behavioral law of natural law, if we align to that in our behaviors, we will grow as a species. If we do not align to that, we will decay as a species. And when we don't align to those natural law principles of not stealing those 7 properties, there's an interesting effect that happens. Institutions rise up around us that begin to perpetuate and expand that decay. Governments, religions, and especially even this concept of money, they come in and expand on that and make it grow and grow, because the fabric of society has not understood that is an issue that's causing these disease symptoms. Because all those institutions, they break natural law. At the least, they're deceptive. That's what I was talking about. So those are the 7 properties connected in with natural law, the law that governs human behavior while we're on this planet. Then I talked about violence versus force, those things, and that deals in with the 7 principles of natural law. If you're using force, you're stopping violence, and that's a good thing. That's the divine masculine energy stopping evil. So I just use the word evil. When you break those 7 properties, that is violence, which is evil. Those can all connect. When someone is doing evil, they're breaking those 7 properties, and they're using violence in their behavior. We then use force to push it back up to deadly force to stop it. That's how that mechanic works. The universe contains laws built into nature. The universe then also contains a law that governs human behavior by dishing out consequences for what action the person chooses. That's a cosmology. A proper cosmology, i.e., a proper worldview, a proper philosophy based on first principles, that's where we need to go to as a society for us to grow and thrive. Now, I'm not saying anything hyper crazy. I'm just saying something very practical and reasonable. And we're moving away from opinions and beliefs of things. We're moving more into what we can know for sure. We can know for sure. That is what we're looking into. And as we move into that process, we will begin to expand as a species. The last thing that I shared in one of my, I think it was in my last video in the 4th vlog, was the Trivium Method. I talked about that process. And what I'm explaining to you, how I've come to all this conclusions about how these pieces work together, is using the Trivium Method. The Trivium Method was an ancient way of learning about nature, of learning. And it involves taking in all the information that's available as much as you can, getting all the different views together, putting it and looking at all of them and studying them, and then coming to a proper conclusion based on all the material. Then as you find the proper conclusion, then sharing it and pushing it forward. Learning how to articulate what you've learned and shared. It's a 3-part method of gathering and then processing and then the output. That's the Trivium Method. That's how we can learn about the world and not get bombarded by so many ideas that are so distant from each other, and opinions and stuff that's thrown at us so much. We can really center down in and take our time to gather things together with reason. Okay. So I hope that helps. It was a little slower and it was a little longer, but I needed time to really put that together. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one.